Well, hi there. I'm Diana Montford, the world's first transgender television journalist. Born male, became female. Oh, you know. Anyway, my guest is cisgender, heterosexual woman. I have to make that clear on this show. Ms. Beatty Cohan, Bretos, who is both a psychotherapist and a sex therapist. And if you have relationship problems, and most people do, assuming you're lucky enough to have a relationship, if you're looking for a relationship, well, we're going to tell you how to find a relationship or how to nurture and protect the one you have. Anyway, now, Beatty is the author of a wonderful book called For Better, For Worse, Forever. Let's show that book.
Yes. Discover the path to lasting love.
Yes. So, or at least until dawn and breakfast, something like that. Anyway, so let's talk about relationships. Are you called doctor or not?
Just Beatty Cohan.
Beatty Cohan.
Yes.
Yes. Bretos, right. Okay, so now, relationships.
We're not doing well.
Why not?
Well, for a number of reasons, but I want people to understand how badly actually we are doing. For example, the divorce rate for first marriages is about 48%. It was 50%, 48%.
Well, people, today they take it for granted. They say like, oh, it's your starter marriage.
Well, yes, starter marriages that unfortunately don't really get better as you go along. The divorce rate, Diana, for second marriages is 62%.
More, not less?
More, not less.
You would think that once you get the hang of having a relationship, the second one would be easier and better.
Do you want to know what the statistic rate for divorce for third marriages is?
I guess.
Okay, it's 73%.
Oh, my God.
So, to say the least, we are having some real issues.
Is that because as people grow older and more jaded, they just grow less interested in accommodating someone else?
No, it's not really like that at all. I mean, that hasn't been my clinical experience or personal experience for that matter. There are three reasons, but this is really good news that I want people to really, really take in. Number one, Diana, if each of us is not in a good place ourselves, emotionally and psychologically and psychiatrically, it is not possible to have a successful relationship with anyone. We have to be able to be serious about taking care as best as we can, even though we can't change history. Our traumas, what I call our unfinished business, our skeletons in the closet, issues that we had with our parents and family of origin. And there is a way through really good therapy to be able to emotionally work through the traumas of our past, whatever those traumas are. We can't change what happened.
No.
But when we go through that process, we're then able to really be in the moment without having one foot in the past and one foot in the present.
But we've all known people who like playing the martyr, like they have a spouse or a significant other who is a screw up, a drunk, a crazy person, and he or she, the martyr spouse, will say, oh yeah, she's crazy, but I love her, and everyone says, what a great guy. So that's a kind of codependency of ineptitude at life, like, like the crazy one is too crazy to be sane, and the martyr says, but I love her.
Well, the martyr is going to have, like Melania Trump, significant emotional problems, physical problems. I mean, we may, talk about, I love this person who's making us crazy, and I love this person, with whom I'm in a really toxic relationship. But sooner or later, it's going to do you in one way or another, so that we have to be in a good place ourselves. And as I always tell people all the time, the relationship, as I see it, should be the icing on the cake. We need to be the cake. We need to be the foundation. And that's really the first thing. And people are reluctant to actually do this kind of work.
But
they don't want to do it.
We've all been conditioned to think that a relationship will save us. Whatever is wrong with us, and I mean men also think this way.
Absolutely.
That a relationship will with a woman or a man will just make everything perfect and life is good and cue the music and come in for a close-up and the end flashes on the screen, and it's all this Hollywood crap that everyone has been taught.
That's what it is. It's wishful thinking, and it absolutely it never works. But that's number one. Number two, the majority of people, and I've been practicing as a psychotherapist and sex therapist now for over 35 years, and what I have found, whether or not you're rich or poor or black or white or Hispanic or Muslim or Jewish or Christian or trans or gay or straight, the majority of people, we've really not had the opportunity, or we haven't taken the opportunity to really learn what ingredients go into a healthy, long-term relationship. Well, you know, people will ask me all the time. They'll say, Beatty, what do you think are the two most important ingredients that make or break relationships? And I always pause and I say, listen, what I'm going to tell you is not romantic, but it happens to be emotional communication and problem solving. If we can't speak to each other, if we can't deal with all the issues that are always going to come up in the best of relationships, we are not going to be able to maintain a healthy relationship.
And so many
anyone.
people use avoidance,
Yes.
thinking that they're keeping their relationship going when in fact they should address the issues, don't you think?
Exactly. And, you know, the thing, too, is that, you know, where do people learn about healthy relationships if you were not fortunate enough to grow up in a family where you saw healthy interactions, where there was love, where there was respect? I mean, where do we learn about this? Certainly not from watching reality television. Really. Certainly not from looking at the relationships that we see with Hillary and Bill Clinton, or with Melania Trump and our so-called president.
But now the Hillary Bill thing, it works for them. I mean, she gives him leave to screw around, and he helps her with her political career, and it works for them. I mean, it's not dysfunctional. It's just not the ideal as we've been conditioned to see the ideal.
I think it's very dysfunctional, and I think that both have paid a very, very heavy price. I mean, you cannot be in a relationship, I don't care who you are, where your partner continues to humiliate you and disrespect you.
But maybe you don't care. It's like, less work for me. You want to screw somebody else? Good. I'll take a nap.
I think that, you know, one maybe could say, yes, you know, Melania Trump is being very pragmatic, Hillary Clinton was being very pragmatic, but there's a price to be paid.
Isn't there a price to be paid in every relationship?
Sure, but I would rather, you know, have a price to pay if I'm with somebody who really loves me and respects me, and there are issues, and that, you know, sometimes it's going to be very difficult under the best of circumstances. But abusive relationships, and if you're looking at President Trump and his wife, or you look at the Clinton marriage,
we don't really know that he abuses her in the usual sense.
Emotionally.
But didn't she make a bargain?
Well, that's the whole thing.
I don't care how you treat me. Just make sure I have a really rich, nice life.
I think that she probably had a very good sense, and certainly reading in the New York Times, I mean, close friends of hers have said, yes, she knew exactly what she was getting into. But can you imagine, you know, giving birth to a child and then, you know, knowing or maybe finding out later that your husband is, you know, having extramarital affairs? I think that...
If it's a money bargain, who cares?
I think that...
That's what I said earlier. Less work for me. Good. Go screw everyone. Don't bother me.
I think that most women and men, I don't think that they really feel that way. I think that we all want to have a happily ever after relationship.
I think there are many ways to be happy. And I think, excuse me, if you like money and you like ease and luxury, and this man will give it to you, and on top of it, you don't have to be at his beck and call because he has a gazillion others, so much the better.
I tell you, I haven't found that to be so in my clinical practice at all. I know when I was living in Sarasota, I had an extraordinarily wealthy clientele. And the money, Diana, it did it for the day. You know, it was nice to travel around in a jet or in a yacht and to be able to
just
go
go
to
shopping.
Tiffany's. But that wasn't the way it sort of played out in real life. I mean, for the women that I was treating who were
But they needed to go to a therapist.
They did, and
But a lot of women don't, and they would be happy with that relationship.
I don't think that they would be happy with the relationship. I think that the women, I think about so many of the women that
What about Jackie O? When she was Jackie Kennedy?
we don't know what goes on behind closed doors.
She knew what he was doing. She didn't care.
We don't know whether she didn't care. It must have hurt. I mean, people get married, and they're hoping for better, for worse, forever. They're hoping that, you know, the person who they're marrying or they're going to connect with loves them and they love them.
Maybe it's a cynical bargain.
Well, maybe it's a cynical bargain for some people, but
A lot of women would rather have a rich husband who won't bother them a lot in bed than a poor guy who's always going at it, and, you know, you get knocked up every year and no money, but he loves you. Well, good, you know, you love me.
well, I guess if that's the
Now
kind,
pay the rent, you know.
I guess if that's the kind of relationship that you want, then you can be very pragmatic about it and not get emotionally connected. But most people, we want to be loved, and we
Not
want to
really.
be. You don't think so?
No.
Well, that has.
Maybe most people want to be comfortable with themselves, and they think that love from others will make that happen.
Well, I think that the relationships, toxic relationships, as I have seen over, you know, so many years in treating, you know, really thousands of people, toxic relationships will kill you one way or another, if not
So
physically.
good ones.
Well,
What if you have a good relationship and it turns toxic? No, all the hopes you had and all the fulfillment you had is now gone, and he turns out to be a real bastard.
well,
Okay, I know a woman, beautiful woman.
right.
Her husband left her for a woman half his age. She got cancer and she died, and she'd been supporting him with her work all her life since they were married.
Devastating for her.
Yeah,
Right.
what a bastard, right?
Right.
He was.
Right. Things, you know, things happen, and there are always going to be crises in relationships, which is why you want to be with somebody who is really serious about maintaining the relationship and working through problems.
People lie.
And people lie. And
They're
I guess
insincere.
but this is where this book I am so proud of, and people who know me know that I'm very bottom line. I'm not one of these clinical sort of intellectual people who's just, you know, tossing out a lot of theory. I did research with 450 people in the Providence, Connecticut, Boston area, and I came up with a 10-step formula to help people learn how to assess, just like I do diagnostic assessments in my office with my private patients
What
all the
are
time.
they?
All right, well, okay, so there are 10
We're waiting.
different
Yes,
10
yes.
different areas, beginning with your partners and, of course, your own family of origin. I want to know what you learned about relationships.
Remember I just told you about the
growing up.
beautiful woman who died of cancer? That was my
Right.
mother and that was my father. He used her like toilet paper.
Was it something that was sudden, or was it something that was the dynamic
She
of
stopped
their
wanting to
relation-
support him. She was a writer at 20th Century Fox. She stopped wanting to support him, and he was furious with her. She insisted he get a job. He did. He met a girl on the line. He was plant engineer for SD Candy. It's a long story.
Long story.
And he ran off with her.
But in the
And then he
beginning,
ran out of money. And my mother went to get him in California and bring him back because he had no money.
but typically,
That's being a jerk, you know?
right. Typically, the signs are always there. I want to know initially, as I do in my office, you know, what people learned about relationships growing up in their own family of origin.
Well, her mother married a very rich man. Her father, the Nazis took their money away. But before that, it was the relationship I said to you. Don't bother me, screw anyone you want, just make sure I have lots of money and can do anything I want.
okay.
That was my grandparents.
All right, and if people are really, you know, that sort of cut and dry about that kind of thing, then so be it.
Yeah, and my grandmother loved it. She was very happy.
I think that your grandmother was probably somebody that was rare. But then you have to look at things like what I call skeletons in the closet. I mean, and whether you're looking at addictions of various different kinds, whether it's drug addictions, whether it's alcohol addiction, whether or not it's gambling, whether or not it's a sexual addiction.
You can be addicted to anything.
Well, all
like TV, like computers.
But
like
I want to know that before I'm going to commit to you. I want to know you.
People keep secrets.
But if you use this assessment format, and by the way, one of the things that was really, really kind of, sort of upsetting to me was that I found with the research that it actually takes close to a year, not a week and not 90 days and not a month, to really be able to do a very good, accurate assessment in terms of being able to find out who somebody is and isn't. So before, people start this process and they say, well, I met this really great guy, or I met this really great woman. How many times have we heard
that, yeah?
But I would never say anything like that, because I learned. What I would say, and what I want all of you to say, is that I've met somebody who appears to be great. And going through this unsexy assessment format, which is going to take you about a year unless it's very clear that you got to exit the relationship as soon as possible.
When he waves the chainsaw around, yeah.
Exactly. You're going to find out who this person is and isn't. You're going to find out about the person's emotional communication skill. You're going to find out whether or not this person is capable of emotional intimacy, caring, sharing, sensitivity, trust. And you're not going to find out any of these things in a couple of weeks.
You know what's very strange? People today are very easily capable of physical intimacy, but emotional intimacy scares them to death.
Exactly. But you need to find this out. You really need to go through
But often you
process.
don't until you've invested a lot of time and love in someone, and then you find out, oh, he's afraid of emotional intimacy.
That's true. But better to find it out within that first year than to commit to somebody and find it out, 2 years down the road.
Now, I know you were married for 30 years.
Yes.
And sadly widowed very quickly.
Yes.
And now married again to your childhood sweetheart.
To the love of my life.
How wonderful.
Yes. Very fortunate.
But now, okay, you are a beautiful woman.
Thank you.
Very sexy. I'm not a lesbian, relax. I'm not making it bad. I'm a trans.
That's okay,
yeah,
too.
That's
okay.
But anyway, here's my point. Men, if you were on the singles market,
right,
men would go out with you because you look great, and they would want to. You figure it out, you.
Okay.
But they would tell you what you want to hear just so they could get you into bed,
But that wouldn't happen with me because I've learned. I wish that I had known all of this when I first started to date when I was a kid. I never thought about any of this until 1997, and I was sitting in my office in Providence, Rhode Island, and my office was a couple of blocks away from Brown University. So here I am, I'm treating all of these elite kids, and they're brilliant, and they're smart, and they're lovely.
But their problems are like crap.
Like everybody else's.
Well, to them, they're important, but to everyone else, it's like silly.
Well, they were having the same issues, the depression, the anxiety, the relationship issues. They weren't maybe having the money problems, but they were having a lot of other issues. And what I saw was that they knew absolutely nothing about relationships, like most of us. And that was what prompted me to go out and do the research and try to give somebody a guide. It's kind of like, and I say this all the time, and I don't want to sound narcissistic or anything like that. It's like having me in your purse or wallet. And I'm tough. I'm tough. I want
to be a therapist, you have to be.
I want people to be educated, Diana. I want them to be empowered. And I want people to be safe. I mean, you look at statistics, domestic violence statistics. 1 in 3 women, okay, so every single day, 3 women are killed.
Why don't they get these guys back?
They're killed in their so-called intimate partner relationships in this country.
Often they're married and they've been married a long time. And they those women who dated Ted Bundy or something, they did not know that.
They didn't know the ingredients. They didn't have their stuff together, and they did not know my assessment format. So they were just kind of left to their own devices.
If a man hit me, I'd hit him back.
Well, if a man hit me, I'd be gone, and of course, I would contact the police.
I
and
did that
I
once
would
years
contact,
ago.
absolutely.
Some guy tried to throw a telephone at my head. We were living together. And I called the cops. And he never forgave me. So how could you call the cops on me like
Well,
that?
you did exactly the right thing.
Yeah.
Of course you did the right thing. But it boils down to, and I ask people all the time, are you really serious about learning, something about relationships? And the reality is that most people are really not serious about looking into themselves, about learning the ingredients, and certainly not about doing the in-depth
Why
assessment.
not? Are they lazy?
They're lazy. They're lazy. They're self-destructive. I mean, I had a call-in counseling radio talk show in Providence, and of course, I have one here on the Progressive.
When does it air?
Monday afternoon from 3 to 4. It's Ask Beatty on the Progressive Radio Network. It's a live call-in show. So I had a man call me, and he said, Beatty, he said, I've been married 3 times. I married a blonde, I married a brunette, and I married a redhead. The dynamic of the relationship was identical. So I said to him, you should have stayed with the first one. Yeah. You didn't learn anything. And, all he did was really change the color of the women's hair.
Which they could have done, the first one could have just done that by going to a salon or
that's
something.
Exactly.
Yeah. Buy a wig.
That's exactly.
I once had a boyfriend who used to like me to wear a brunette wig. And
Good.
he said, you remind me of someone we both knew. And I said, well, I'm not wearing this wig because you're really doing it with her, not me,
But people, again, we have to be careful. We spend more time assessing cell phones and computers and television sets than we ever think about the concept, the idea of saying, hey, I really need to find out who this person is.
But people think that kills the magic,
It doesn't kill the magic. It keeps us safe. I had an interview with Nicole Brown Simpson's sister, with Denise Brown, and she has said publicly that had her sister known about my formula and had used the formula, that she'd be alive today. Because it's all there. It's not like there aren't signs and symptoms. We need to know what to look for, and we need to, as I constantly saying on my show, we need to take it in and be serious about engaging in constructive behavior rather than self-sabotaging ourselves and being self-destructive. And either you want to do it.
Would we know that we're doing that, though?
Well, there's a learning curve.
Yeah, but you can be very, do it unconsciously,
Well, if you see the pattern repeating itself, relationship after relationship, somebody has to, stop and say, hey, listen, there's something wrong here. I need to figure out why I always end up with these abusive men or these disgusting women. I need to figure this out. And it's so easy to blame the other person. The other person's horrible. The other person is terrible. So what is it about you that continues to choose horrible people who hurt you?
Do we look for our parents unconsciously?
I think sometimes we do.
Mm-hmm.
I have a patient right now who grew up in a very physically, verbally, emotionally abusive relationship, and she's 58 years old, and every single man that she has had a relationship with resembled either her mother or her father, and both were very abusive to her.
Oh,
and we're trying to break the pattern.
Yeah.
But there's a familiarity of that dynamic.
And that's happiness of a kind.
Well, it's killing her. She's suicidal and she's not in good shape. But what's so interesting is that when you were used to something, let's say it's really bad. Mm-hmm. I had a patient one time in Providence, and this was an interesting story. She had been abused sexually and emotionally in every way by her mother, her father, and her brothers and her sisters, and they used to have the family bed on a Saturday where there was sex. This is what went on.
Whoa!
So, yes,
that is so
horrible.
sick.
It was really
That is really sick, yeah.
And she walked into my office, and I thought she was going to kill me. I mean, she was so angry and so understandably so. So we did a lot of work, and she did very well in therapy.
I'm still in shock. What?
It was true.
Oh, God.
True story.
That's so sick.
And she meets this great guy. And we were really excited. She meets this really, really nice guy. And she said, Beatty, she said, how can something, and I never forgot this, Diana, she said, how can something so good feel so wrong and so bad? Because she was used to the abuse. She was used to being hurt. She was used to, and it didn't feel right. It felt bad. So we had a lot more work to do, and in this particular situation, she has ended up with a woman. She married the woman, and the last I heard is doing really beautifully well in her life.
I guess
You
that's
know.
wonderful.
So
Now,
yeah.
we're almost out of
Okay.
time.
Okay.
How can people get this wonderful book?
Okay, for better, for worse, forever, discover the path to lasting love. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it in Barnes and Noble.
By Beatty Cohan.
By Beatty Cohan, yes, Beatty Cohan Bredos. And you can actually reach me on my beattycohan.com website, and all the contact information is there. And I hope that you all...
What's the address of that?
beattycohan.com.
Okay, there you go.
beattycohan.com, yes.
And why don't you spell your name?
It's BeattyCohan.com.
Mm-hmm. And Cohan like George M. Cohan.
That's exactly right.
Yes.
Yes.
And Beatty for Beatrice, not Betty, Beatty.
Right, Beatty
Yes.
for Beatrice, right.
And now, if people want to see you, do you accept new patients?
I'm accepting new patient, yes, and all the information, everything you want to know about me. There are videos, there are bios, there's all kinds of things are on the beattycohan.com website.
So you can see if you and Beatty would be a good fit, therapy-wise.
And that's important too,
Yeah,
because
sure.
really it's important to make sure that your therapist is somebody who will be able to really help you. There's a lot of harm being done also in the world of psychotherapy, so we have to be very wise about making sure that your therapy is helpful rather than harmful.
I once went to a psychotherapist. She was an English woman. And you know about transference? She fell in love with me, and I could not get rid of her.
Wow.
To save my life. She became a stalker. It was really unpleasant.
I hope you contacted the state licensing board and made a report.
Well, no, but I asked my boyfriend to have a talk with her and say, look, she's not interested. Leave her alone,
Oh, my
please.
goodness.
Yeah.
You don't want that in your therapy.
No.
No romance, no dual relationships.
Usually transference is the other way around. You fall in love with a therapist, not the therapist with you.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it was weird. But anyway, she was a nice woman. I just wasn't interested. But anyway.
Well, she overstepped her boundaries and should not be practicing.
Yeah,
Bottom
but I
line.
didn't want to report her to anyone.
She was lucky.
Whatever.
She was very lucky.
Anyway, now your radio shows when?
Radio show Ask Beatty every Monday afternoon live from 3 to 4 on the Progressive Radio Network. There is an archive section, and there are, as of last Monday, 228 Ask Beatty shows that I've done on the Progressive Radio Network.
How do we get onto Progressive? Is it computer?
Yes, it's like Sirius Radio.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Anyway, my guest has been Ms. Beatty Cohan, who is a psychotherapist and a sex therapist, and you can contact her at beattycohan.com.
Yes.
And find out about her and all her wonderful work and her relationship work. And you should definitely get her book, which is?
For better, for worse, forever, discover the path to lasting love.
Yes, and you can get that via Amazon, and you probably should, because Beatty is well known for her wonderful work with relationships and is highly respected. Anyway, I'm Diana Montford. This has been the Diana Montford Show. Hey, even if no one else loves you, I love you. And Beatty loves you, and we all love you. See you next time. Bye.
Mm-hmm. Bye.
Okay, that was good. That was good.
Good chemistry, cutie
Yeah,
pie.
it was
Good chemistry.
I'm going to run down and indulge my hideous habit.
Go.
Yes.
And I'm going to powder my nose. That's it.
Yes. And I will. Oh, let's unhinge here.
All right. Yes.
And want to do another one?
Sure. We'll do
Sounds
the
good.
sex one.
Yeah.
All right. We'll do the sex one.
And I'll be right back.
Okay.
Or maybe not. Maybe the studio's trapped me here. Okay.
Okay. Good. Yeah. All right. See you soon.
I'll be up in 5 minutes.
Yeah. Take your time.